Throughout the 20th century, major droughts plagued the world. In recent years, the Darfur region of Sudan has experienced a recurring cycle of low precipitation. This drought has been a major factor in the devastating civil war there. Scientists agree a dangerous combination of man-made factors and climate fluctuation could lead to long-lasting mega-droughts within the next 10 years.
Inevitably, there will be water shortages even without the kinds of perturbations of the climate that we're going to see over the next decade. With that in play, the only uncertainty is how much a shortage, where do those shortages happen, and how bad are they?
If urban sprawl in desert areas escalates, agricultural irrigation increases, and hotter, drier weather continues to plague the Southwest, a perfect drought could emerge.
A perfect drought is when you've got dryness that's affecting all of those water resources.
Las Vegas and Phoenix, two cities carved out of the desert, are drought danger zones waiting to implode.
Las Vegas has been growing tremendously in recent years, but back when the Colorado River Compact was developed, Las Vegas was a small village.
As water becomes more scarce, these desert cities will find themselves competing for this precious resource. Lake Mead in the Colorado River supplies the city of Las Vegas with almost all of its water, and the Imperial Valley in Southern California, considered one of the most important agricultural centers in the United States, relies almost completely on water from the Colorado River. California is the 8th largest economy in the world. Without water, farm productivity and urban water use across the entire Southwest could dry up.
There have been a lot of schemes, ideas that have been generated on how do you move water, for example, from the Great Lakes to Western Texas. But I think as these conflicts become more severe in the future, we're going to have more of these schemes identified, and people are going to try and promote some of these ideas.
But even with the intervention of new ideas and conservation efforts, a multi-decade drought in the West would be a major catastrophe.
What occurs in that sort of a scenario is that the first year of drought certainly affects the economy of people. It draws down the reservoirs, it draws down the water supply that's available in streams.
But the conflict between agricultural and urban and suburban water needs is bound to increase as the length of the drought increases.
It's going to be a big conflict issue, and we're only going to see more of that as we go through the next 50 years.
Today, the Colorado River Basin at Lake Mead is at half capacity and is 110 feet below its maximum elevation of 1,229 feet. In a multi-year drought, lower precipitation levels and decreased snowpack could cause the river to drop even more.
When you go into a second year of drought, you have those portions of the hydrologic system that are already out of balance from where they should be. And so a second year of drought produces impacts that are magnified significantly over the first year.
As the drought drags on, water rationing could become mandatory. Dry brush across huge swaths of the West will be especially vulnerable to forest fires.
What's changing in terms of wildfire is how we're moving into those areas where we have trees. The rural-urban interface is changing, and so we've got a lot of people who are wanting to move into the settings that are nice.
In the third year of the drought, a massive fire spreads across much of Southern California, Nevada, and Arizona. In Los Angeles, a fire burns more than 25,000 acres across the Hollywood Hills. Almost 1,000 homes are destroyed. Thick black smoke covers the city.
So if you go into a third year, a fourth year, a fifth year, this becomes very severe in that the resiliency of the agricultural community, the urban community, and so on to deal with this over a period of time, multiple years, disappears.
10 years into the drought, the Las Vegas casinos pull up stakes and move to fairer climates in the East and Canada. 20 years into the drought, with the loss of its economic engine, Las Vegas becomes the first major American city to become a ghost town. the drought disaster moves into a third decade, federal and state governments become increasingly desperate to save the economic and cultural infrastructure of an area that accounts for 70 to 80 million Americans. The search for water could become a dominant theme for countries, states, local municipalities, and even individuals.
We don't typically think of pirated water as a major problem in the United States today. Could it be so in the future? Scarcity does funny things to the way people behave in those situations.
A prolonged drought could bring economic chaos to vast areas of the western United States. Individuals would wander the dry back roads, trading gas and other commodities for increasingly valuable fresh water.
You know, you can live for a few days or even a week without eating anything solid, but you can't live for that long without drinking water. It's the most important resource for life.
Social, cultural, and political systems will be near the breaking point.
We sort of believe that everybody is entitled to have water at a reasonable price. As sources get more scarce and as water gets more expensive, that bargain usually tends to unravel, much as it has in other parts of the world. We could see fights here like we have in other parts of the world over those supplies.
A once abundant natural resource has nearly disappeared. It's the Wild West all over again. Only this time, water has truly become more precious than gold. Nation could face off against nation over dwindling supplies of water.
Here in the United States, it seems pretty unlikely that Colorado and California are going to go to war over water. But Mexico and the United States, that's a less unlikely kind of scenario.
But this nightmare vision of the future may not be inevitable. At the National Drought Mitigation Center, scientists are working to ensure that this scenario remains science fiction.
I think over the next 10 to 20, 30 years, we're going to be doing a much better job in predicting droughts.
Early warnings could help farmers and urban areas make changes to avoid overtaxing their infrastructure systems.
Las Vegas is one of the best examples of being very aggressive in trying to get homeowners to think about other types of vegetation other than grass surfaces to go on their lawns, and providing incentives for their population to try to conserve water. And the reason for that, frankly, is because they've experienced this drought over the last 7, 8, 9 years.
Water as a traded commodity may become a bigger part of the picture.
The idea of banking and marketing and moving water, trading water between states or between countries will become very much a hot topic as we move farther into this century.
Natural climate fluctuations may move in a more favorable pattern. A drought in the Missouri River Valley during the early 1990s decimated the local water supplies, and scientists worried it would take decades to get back to normal levels.
Well, 1993 was a flood year, and it was a flood year to end all flood years, and those reservoirs returned to normal in 1 year. But you can't rely on that sort of an extreme event to occur. You never know when that's going to happen. You can estimate that, but we have no control over Mother Nature.
We may have no control over Mother Nature, but these experts hope that conservation efforts can help mitigate the effects of depleted reservoirs and climate change. If not, the resulting mega-drought could have a catastrophic impact, not only on the Southwest, but also the entire nation.